On Saturday afternoon, on November 13th, 1993, Roger turned up at his parents' house. His father was still at the bar, and he argued with his mother in the kitchen. For the first time, maybe he had been refused help by his parents. He followed her into the bathroom, striking her 8 times in the head, causing the blood spatter on the bathtub. Roger then wrapped his mother's body in a green blanket and dragged her body in the kitchen, leaving the green fibers found later by investigators. His father Derek arrived home shortly afterwards, and when he did, Roger was waiting for him. He struck his father 10 times in the head, causing the blood spatter onto the garage door. He may have been a key suspect, but also may have never been caught, if not for this one tiny, crucial piece of evidence and good detective work. But why would a seemingly normal guy brutally murder his parents with a hammer? Well, as it turns out, his parents were rich, and he thought if they turned up dead, he would get an early payday. This is the story of an only child who thought he would get his parents' money through inheritance until Derek and Eileen Severs had disappeared from their home 3 weeks prior. They vanished without a trace from their home in Hambleton. A detailed search was conducted for a missing couple by police and hundreds of volunteers. It was the forensic evidence found in some dirt that led to their whereabouts. Derek and Eileen Severs were a wealthy retired couple who lived a life of leisure. They lived in Hambleton, a small village about a 2-hour drive from London. They had been living in their home for 20 years, known locally as the bungalow. Derek had been retired for the past few years and was well known and well liked among neighbors. Doug lived next door to the Severs. He said he never met a better man. Eileen was equally well known. She volunteered for many local charities. She was also a kind and generous friend and neighbor. Saturday afternoon, November 13th, 1993, was the last time friends saw Derek Severs. He had lunch and beer at a bar. Friend said he got into his car and left at about 3:30 in the afternoon and was headed straight home. Eileen was last seen on that same afternoon. She left church after attending a charity bazaar that she helped organize. She told friends she too was headed home. 5 days later, after both Severs missed some previously scheduled appointments, friends called the police. Police immediately drove out to the Severs' home. Their 37-year-old son, Roger, answered the door. The officer asked about them. Roger said they decided to take a vacation to London. Police took a quick look around. There was no sign of break-in and no sign of anything wrong inside of the house. Friends were not convinced. The Severs had never gone away without first cancelling their scheduled appointments. They would never go away without letting their friends know to look after their house. His next-door neighbor, Doug, said when they would go away, they would leave him in charge. They would also not leave the house and ask their son, Roger, to house sit. Roger was a disappointment to his parents. He was unemployed and had the reputation of being a con man. When police heard these stories, they decided to take a closer look around the Severs' home. 6 days after friends last saw Derek and Eileen, investigators decided to make another visit to their home, this time in daylight. They immediately noticed the backyard had recently been dug up and a fire was burned in the garden. Looking through the windows, the kitchen carpet was also missing. Roger told police his parents left for London via train. Police went to the train station with photos of the Severs. They asked employees and regular passengers if they had seen the couple. Mr. Severs walked with a bad limp and a cane. They would be very noticeable. No one recalled seeing the Severs, and police found no evidence that they even made it to London. The local newspaper ran a headline about the couple's mysterious disappearance. Investigators decided to conduct a forensic search for blood inside of the couple's home. They noticed right away in the bathroom some suspicious red stains on the side of the bathtub. A test for blood was performed. A damp cotton swab is used to wipe the stain and mixed with a solution that turns it bright pink if it's positive for blood. Someone could have cut themselves in the bathroom. They continued their search. There was a blood smear found in the back seat of Mr. Savers' car. They performed the same test there and on the garage door, and they were both indeed blood spatter. Investigators noticed something else suspicious. There were a large number of green fibers in the hallway. The same fibers were in the trunk of Mr. Severs' car, and on a pair of pants believed to be Roger's. The fibers were an important clue because they did not match any items inside of the house, meaning the source of the fibers had recently been removed. Wherever the fibers are coming from is missing with the Severs, so it's more than likely part of the crime scene. The detectives were convinced now that Derek and Aileen were the victims of foul play. Investigators believed that Roger Severs was involved with his parents' disappearance, but they had no hard proof that a crime had been committed. The search for the Severs began in their own backyard, since it had recently been tampered with. They quickly realized you would need a very large fire to dispose of bodies, and there is no way it would be in shallow dirt. They didn't find any human remains, but they did find small bits of burned carpet and clothing in the ashes. Just when many searches turned up no clues, police finally got a break. They learned of a strange event before the Severs were even reported missing. A police officer on patrol recalled seeing a man in a small wooded area called Exton Woods that night. He pulled over and asked him if he needed a hand. The man acted suspiciously, and he fit the description of Roger Severs. He just yelled that he needed to relieve himself and was collecting leaves. The detectives then went to the part of the woods that the man was seen that night to have a look. After a search, all they found was a bloody towel. The towel matched the towels in the Severs' house. Without blood samples, it was difficult to know who the blood belonged to. Late one night, investigator Peter Thomas was taking another look and studying the photos of the Severs' vehicle. Something unusual caught his eye. There was something suspicious and unusual about the dirt on Mr. Severs' car. The dirt was lighter than the dark, black and grey, dirty color dirt on regular road usage. To find out if they could tell where the car had been, detectives called on Dr. Tony Brown, a geologist. Dr. Brown began his examination by collecting the soil, dirt, grass, and debris from the wheel wells of Derek Severs' automobile. Under the microscope, Dr. Brown analyzed the samples and discovered tiny bits of vegetation mixed in with the mud. There were also tiny pieces of moss, leaves and grass, and a small piece of fishing line. It told the detectives that what was collected could only come from a shaded area of the woods because of the moss. Also because of the grass, and fishing line suggests it was near a place where fishermen parked. There were over 20 different types of pollen that were also mixed in from the wheel well. Pollen is a powder-like substance produced from the male seed from trees and plant life. To identify the pollen, first he had to separate the microscopic granules from the soil. He used a chemical so powerful that it could melt glass. Then he sifted it through a series of filters. The acid melts away all remaining materials, leaving just the pollen. When Dr. Brown could finally identify the last pollen sample, it came from a rare horse chestnut tree. It is a heavy pollen, meaning it won't float through the air, it will float straight down to the ground and close to the tree. Since Dr. Brown found pollen in all 4 of the Severs' wheel wells, he was convinced the car had recently been parked near a horse chestnut tree. Detectives asked Dr. Brown to find locations that had the rare horse chestnut tree, as well as the other vegetation found in the wheel well. Dr. Brown pointed out 5 possible locations to search on the map. The first location was closest to the Severs' home. After an entire day of searching, turned up nothing. They then searched a larger area of woods near the lake. A special search team walked shoulder to shoulder, working their way down a hill there. When one of the officers poked a stick into one of the mounds, he found it to be unexpectedly soft. He cleared away some of the leaves and loose soil to reveal a patch of human skin. Police slowly uncovered the bodies of Eileen and Derek Severs. They ironically were laying on a bed of horse chestnuts, and just a few feet away stood a horse chestnut tree. They were laying side by side, and both of them were wrapped in green blankets. Fibers in the green blankets matched the fibers collected from the hallway and the pants that belonged to Roger. The soil matched the soil from Exton Avenue Woods, where Roger was discovered by the police officer that night. Another layer of soil matched the soil from the Severs' backyard. There was even a layer of roof tiles to make his parents' shallow grave more stable. The tiles matched the roof tiles on the roof of the Severs' home. Roger was then tied into every step, from the murders to the burials. All of the evidence pointed to the Severs' only son, Roger, who had a history of personal and financial difficulties and being a con man. He was penniless and desperate. Detectives believe on Saturday afternoon, on November 13th, 1993, he turned up at his parents' house. His father was still at the bar, and he argued with his mother in the kitchen. For the first time, maybe he had been refused help by his parents. He followed her into the bathroom, striking her 8 times in the head, causing the blood spatter on the bathtub. Roger then wrapped his mother's body in a green blanket and dragged her body into the kitchen, leaving the green fibers found by investigators. Derek arrived home shortly afterwards, and when he did, Roger was waiting for him. He struck his father 10 times in the head, causing the blood spatter onto the garage door. Roger placed his father's body into the back seat of the car, where detectives later noticed the blood smear. He put his mother's body into the trunk, where green blanket fibers were later discovered. Roger drove his father's car into a deserted location in the woods, under a horse chestnut tree, in an area used by fishermen. He then dragged the bodies into the woods. Roger wanted to limit the time that he spent at the scene. So instead of digging a grave, he placed the bodies in a ravine. He then covered them with roofing tiles, fertilizer, and leaves. The most important piece of evidence came from when Roger was driving away. Pollen from the horse chestnut tree flew up into the wheel wells of the automobile. He never could have imagined that this pollen would lead police to his parents' grave. Roger Severs was charged in the murder of his parents. During the trial, he took the witness stand and confessed. His plea for leniency failed, and he was sentenced to life in prison. He thought he had planned the perfect murder, but he couldn't account for the clues that were too small to see.